All right, welcome back, students. Today we're going to prepare for the Chapter 2 test. We're going to go through each of these questions that are going to be on your test tomorrow. We'll talk about what you might see and how you might solve each of these problems. So make sure you fill in your textbook as we go. You can always look back to this to study or go back into any of the lessons that you don't understand to prepare yourself for the test. The first question here says, choose the word that makes the sentence true. The first digit in the quotient of 1,875 divided by 9 will be in the what place? Well, we have 1,875. We're going to divide this by 9. 9 will not go into 1, but 9 will go into 18 2 times. Because this 8 is in the hundreds place, the 2 is also in the hundreds place. So the first digit in our quotient will be in the hundreds place. You can refer back to lesson 2.1 if you were struggling with where to place that digit. But just remember, whatever digit the first, or wherever the first digit in the quotient, wherever it goes above, is where that first digit is in the quotient. Question number 2, and tomorrow will be 4 separate questions, but question number 2 says, true or false? Select true or false to indicate whether the quotient is correct. So we need to divide each of these problems to see if the answer is indeed correct. So we're going to start with 2a, 225, and we're going to divide this by 9. 9 does not go into 2, but it goes into 22 2 times, because that is 18. When I subtract, 22 minus 18 is 4. Bring down the 5. 9 goes into 45 5 times. And my remainder is 0. The answer is 25, which is true. 2b is 154 divided by 7. And we're trying to get an answer of 22. 7 goes into 15 2 times. That is 14. If I subtract, I get 1. 7 goes into 14 2 times. And again, I get 22. That is also true. On C, 312 divided by 9. 9 does not go into 3. It goes into 31 3 times, because that's 27. And I get 4. Bring down the 2. 9 goes into 42 times, because that is 36. And when I subtract 42 minus 36, I should get 6. And that means there's a remainder here. Therefore, it does not give me 39. That is a false statement. Now, there is another way to solve these. Remember that we can always check division by multiplying the quotient times the divisor, and that will give us the dividend. So on this one, we could take 260 and multiply it by 2, and if this is correct, we should get 412. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 6 is 12. 4 plus 1 is 5, and I get 520, not 412. If we wanted to actually check it with division, 2 goes into 4 twice. Bring down the 1. 2 goes into 1 0 times. So that's already an indication it's not going to match. If I bring my next 2 down, 2 goes into 12 6 times. I should get 206, not 260, which is written right here. So that is also a false statement. So on these, you can use division to check, or you can also use multiplication by taking your quotient times the divisor to see if you get the dividend, which is what you started with. On to question number 3. Chen is checking a division problem by doing the following. 152 times 4, and then he's going to add 2 to that. So this is back to what we talked about, where you can take your quotient, multiply it by the divisor, and then also add the remainder, and you will get the dividend. So 4 times 2 equals 8. 4 times 5 is 20. And 4 times 1 plus 2 gives me my 6. When I add 608 plus 2, I get 610. So what problem was Chen checking? Well, remember, this will be the quotient. And you multiply it by the divisor. If you have anything to add, you're adding the remainder. And that always gives you your dividend. So the division problem that he is checking is 610 divided by our divisor, 4, is going to give us a quotient of 152 with a remainder of 2. Because if we set this problem up, 610 divided by 4 is going to give us 152, remainder 2. And you always check it by taking quotient times divisor, add the remainder, and that gives you your dividend, which is what we did here on question number 3. So tomorrow on your test, and this is again from lesson 2.2, you can look back to that. On your test, you will have to set up the division problem that matches the multiplication problem here. So make sure you know that it's going to be quotient times divisor plus the remainder equals the dividend. So dividend is first, divided by the divisor equals your quotient with the remainder. Question number 4 is very, very similar to this, except now it's flipped. Now we're going to take the division problem. Isaiah wrote a problem in his notebook using the vocabulary boxes labeled. Label those parts of the division problem. Then, using that vocabulary, explain how he could check to see if he was correct. So, again, now we're taking the division problem, we're going to flip it and check it using multiplication. So, the divisor is always the number out front. The 9 is your divisor. The quotient is your answer. It's the number up top. Quotient. And the number on the inside is your dividend. So you will have to label the parts of a division problem, knowing where the divisor goes out front, the quotient is always up top, and the dividend is inside. Now, using those words, how do we check to see if we're correct? We're just going to simply take our quotient and multiply it by the divisor, multiply it by the divisor, there we go, and that will give you the dividend. Quotient times divisor equals dividend. If we scroll down to number 5, again, a lot of emphasis on being able to check this problem. So how would we check division using 793 divided by 6 is 132, remainder 1. We want to use multiplication to check and show that Tammy is correct here. So we're going to take, just like we talked about up here, quotient times divisor. You're going to take quotient times divisor. 132 times 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 1 is 19. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. Then you add the remainder. So we're going to add remainder of 1. That is 793. And that gives us the dividend which we started with. Quotient times divisor plus the remainder equals the dividend. And again, you can refer back to lesson 2.2 if you need any help with checking division with multiplication. Question number 6 comes from lesson 2.6, which is just simply 2-digit division. Jeffrey wants to save the same amount of money each week to buy a new bike. He needs $252. If he wants the bike in 14 weeks, how much money should Jeffrey save each week? So we're going to take 252 divided by 14. Now, 14 will not go into 2, but it is going to go into 25. Now, the key to 2-digit division is you have to do some multiplication off to the side with your 14s so that you can find a number that works. So 14 may go in once, but we're going to try 14 times 2 just to be sure. That would be an 8, and 1 times 2 is 2. So 28, that's going to be too big, so we know it's just one time. That's a 14. If I subtract 25 minus 14, I should get 11. I bring down the 2. 14 goes into 112. Now, again, if you're unsure, guess and check. Maybe it's 6 times, maybe it's 7, maybe it's 8. So we're going to try 14 times 6 first. 14 times 6 is 24. 6 times 2 is 6 plus the 2 gives me 8. So I get 84. All right, so I can get closer than that. So I'm going to jump to 14 times 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 3 is 11. That is 112, so we know it's 8 times 112. Subtract remainder of 0. He needs to save $18 each week in order to meet his goal in 14 weeks. Question number 7. Question number 7. is Dana is making a seating chart for an awards banquet. There are 184 people coming to the banquet. If 8 people can be seated at each table, how many tables will be needed for the awards banquet? So 184 people, and we're dividing them into groups of 8. Now, if we have any leftovers, we're going to have to really think about what to do with the remaining people. So 8 does not go into 1, but 8 goes into 18 twice. That would be 16. When I subtract, I get 2. Bring down my 4. 8 goes into 24 3 times, because that is 24. Subtract, I have no people left over, so every table will be full, and we need 23 tables to seat all 184 people. On to the next page. Question number 8, you may cross off because we will not be doing partial quotients on this test. Question number 9 is very similar to question number 2, where you had to divide and see if your answer is correct, except this time, now we have 2-digit divisors. So the first one, we're going to take 5,210, and we're going to divide it by 17. Now, the nice thing about this is we know what numbers to try, because they're telling us that. If that's not the number, then it's not going to work, and it's going to be a false statement. If that number is the one that works, then we know, yes, it's going to be true. So 17 does not go into 5, but it goes into 52. We need to try 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21, carry my 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus that 2 that we carried gives me 51. I subtract, I get 1. Bring down the 1. 17 goes into 11. 0 times, which actually matches. 0, subtract, I get 11. Bring down my 0. 17 goes into 110. Well, we need it to be 6 times, so we're going to try 17 times 6 to see if that's as close as we can get. 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. That is indeed as close as we're going to get. That's 102. If I subtract, borrow here, 10 minus 2 is 8. So I have a remainder of 8. 306, remainder 8 is my answer. And that is what it said over here. So yes, that is a true statement. Now remember, from earlier, we did say you could check with multiplication. And we could check this next one with multiplication by taking quotient times divisor plus the remainder, and that will give us the dividend. So we're going to check that this time. We're going to do 209 times 42. Two times 9 is 18. Carry my 1. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Drop a 0. 4 times 9 is 36. Carry my 3. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 3. And 4 times 2 equals 8. If I add this up, I get 8, 7. This is also 4 plus 3 is 7. And then 8. We then need to add our remainder, which is 30. 8 plus 0 is 8. 7 and 3 makes 10. 7 plus 1 equals 8. And 8. 8,808, which is the dividend that we started with. So yes, that is correct. So you are allowed to use multiplication on these problems as well to check the answers. The last one, we're also going to use division. So we're going to go back to 1,248. We're going to divide that by 24. And we're going to see if we get just 51. 24 does not go into 1. It also does not go into 12. 24 should go into 124 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 2 is 10, plus that 2 is 12. That works. Bring down, subtract, bring the 4. Bring down my 8. 24 goes into 48 2 times, because 24 times 2 is 48. Subtract, I get 0. My answer is 52. They said it was going to be 51. That is not correct. So that is incorrect there. So you can either use multiplication or division to check these problems. We're going to go ahead and skip down to number 10. Number 10, we are not going to do the picture part. We are going to just do the division side of things. So as I scroll here, we're just doing 156. Go back here. We're just doing 156 divided by 12. 12 does not go into 1. 12 goes into 15 once. Bring down the 3 after I subtract. 6 comes down. Now we have 36. 12 times 3 is 36. So that's 3 times. Subtract, I get 0. And 156 divided by 12 is going to be 13. On to question number 11. Question number 11 is just a 2-digit division problem. 5,210 divided by 17. We can again go back to lesson 2.6 if you need more help with this. 17 does not go into 5. 17 goes into 51 3 times, or 52 3 times, because that is 51. I subtract. We're going to get 1. We're going to bring down the 1. 17 is going to go into 11 0 times. That's a 0. We subtract. We get 11 again. Bring down the 0. 17 goes into 110 6 times, because 17 times 6 is 42. That's 6 plus 4, which is 10. It's 102 is the closest we can get. We subtract, and we get 8. This would be 306, remainder 8. If we were unsure, we could always check our work by taking the quotient times the divisor plus the remainder, then that will give us our dividend. Question number 12, you may cross off. Question number 13, you can also cross off. Both parts A and B. All right, question number 14 is from lesson 2.7, interpreting the remainder. Russ and Vicky are trying to solve this problem. There are 146 students taking buses to the museum. If each bus holds 24 students, how many buses will they need? Russ says they will need 6 buses, and Vicky says 7 buses. We need to figure out which person is correct. So we're going to take 146 and divide it by 24 students. So we have 146 students. We divide it by 24 students because that's how many can fit on a bus. 24 does not go into 1. It does not go into 14. It is going to go into 24 is going to go into 146 5 times. Let's try that, or excuse me, 6 times. Try that first. 24 times 6. Would give me 24. 12 plus 2 is 14. So we get 144. When we subtract, we have 2. What that's telling us is we're going to have 6 full buses and 2 students left. So if we're interpreting the remainder, how many buses do we need so that every student will be able to go on the trip? We need to get 1 more bus for the 2 extra students. So we are going to get 7 buses. And the person that was correct was Vicky. Question number 15, we're also going to cross off. Question 16. Question 16 is also again from lesson 2.7, interpret the remainder. Steve is buying apples for the 5th grade. Each bag holds 12 apples. If there are 75 students total, how many bags of apples will Steve need to buy if he wants to give 1 apple to each student? So we're going to take 75 students. We're going to divide this by 12 apples in a bag. Okay, you're going to the store, you're buying bags of apples. We're dividing it by 12. 12 goes into 70 times. 12 will then go into 75 6 times because 12 times 6 is 72. That's as close as we're going to get. And we subtract and we get 3. We get a 3. Now, what that means is if he buys 6 bags, he's going to have 3 students that haven't gotten an apple yet. So in order for everybody to make sure they get that, he needs to buy 1 more bag so that those 3 extra students can get an apple. So instead of 6, we're going to bump up the quotient and buy 7 bags of apples. Question 17 is an estimating. We're going to skip that. And the last question we're going to do here is question number 18. This falls from 2.9. This is with the pictures and the problem solving. Paula has a dog that weighs 3 times as much as Carla's dog. The total weight of the dogs is 48 pounds. How much does Paula's dog weigh? So what we know is we have Paula's dog and we have Carla's dog. And Paula's dog is 3 times what Carla's dog weighs. So this is where we draw the boxes. Remember, the first thing you need to do is find out which dog is smaller. Is it Paula's or Carla's? Well, since Paula's is 3 times bigger than Carla's is the smaller one, it's going to get 1 box. And because Paula's is 3 times that, it's going to get 3 boxes. Now, we use this so that we count the total number of boxes. There are 4 total boxes, 3 for Paula, 1 for Carla. We do 48 pounds divided by 4 boxes. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 8 2 times. And our answer is 12. That tells us that every box is worth 12. So Carla's dog is going to weigh 12 pounds. And Paula's dog is going to be 12 times 3 boxes. 12 times 3 is 36. So Paula's dog weighs 36 pounds. We are also going to cross off question number 19. And that is it. Those are the questions that are going to show up on your test. Please make sure you go back and review each of these problems as you filled it in your textbook. If you have any questions, you can message myself or Mrs. Loddick. Thanks for watching. Good luck on your test.